I will start in about 1 minute. Let's wait, please.
أعتقد نبدأ بالبرنامج لأنه قضية. مساء الخير على الجميع.
I believe let's start with the program. It's time.
المدير التنفيذي لمركز الإعلام الحر للصحافة
Good
الاستقصائية.
evening for everyone.
سأتولي اليوم مهمة
Allow
إدارة هذه
me to
الجلسة
introduce myself.
بدون
My
أن
name is
أشارك
Wajdi Salmi.
فيها كمداخل أو صاحب رأي.
I am the Executive Director of the Free
أحييكم
Media
جميعاً
Center for
وأرحب
Investigative
بكم
Journalists. I'll be
جميعاً
the
مشاركين
facilitator.
ومتحدثين ومنفذين
I'll,
وشركاء داعمين.
I'll not participate as a
في هذه
commenter.
الندوة
I'd like
التفاعلية
to welcome
الهامة
everyone. I'd like to welcome you all,
المخصصة
the
لمناقشة
panelists
مشاركة
and the
دور النساء
speakers
والشباب
and the
والمسؤولين ذوي
stakeholders
الإعاقة أو أصحاب الهمم في
in
مسار
this
الاستدامة
interactive
الانتقالية.
forum
تكمن أهمية الندوة
dedicated to talk
فيما
about the
أؤكد
role of
أنه لا يمكن
women,
أن تكون
youth,
العدالة
marginalized
الانتقالية
people with
شاملة في
disabilities in the
حالة
transitional
العبودية
justice
ما لم يتم
processes.
استيعاب مشاركة الجنسية
It is very
بالصحيح.
important, and it emphasizes
المنظم
that
هذه
there is
الندوة
no
كل
transitional
من
justice
المنظمة
complete one,
السامية للحقوق
comprehensive,
والحريات
if it
ورابطة
doesn't
الجمعيات
include
الحقوقية
all
وهم
the
عضوان
other
في اتحاد حركة الاحتلال
marginalized
اليمن.
sectors. This
وذلك بالشراكة مع
forum is
الاتحاد
organized by
الأمريكي
SAM,
الذي له دور في
Organization for
تكوين
Rights and
تأسيس
Liberties, and Mothers Abductees
ميثاق العدالة
Association.
لليمن
They are also
وضامن
part of the
كحالة
Yemen
مكونة
Justice
من
Charter Alliance.
عدد من
They are
المنظمات التي
also in
تركز
partnership
نشاطات
with DT,
حول انتهاكات حقوق
which
الإنسان.
has a role to play in the
قبل ما
establishment of
نبدأ
this
برنامجنا دعونا نستمع
organizations.
لكلمة للجهة المنظمة
These
تتحدث فيها
organizations
الأستاذ
focus on
توفيق
the
الحميدي
violations
رئيس
of human
المنظمة السامية
rights.
للحقوق والحريات
Before we start our
استحقاق هذه
program,
الندوة.
let's hear
فليتفضل أستاذ
delivered
توفيق.
word by Mr. Tawfiq
شكرا
Al-Hamidi, the
أخ
president of
وجدي.
SAM Organization for
شكرا
Rights
جزيلا
and Liberties, about this.
بداية
The
الضيوف
mic is yours,
المحدثين
Mr.
الذين
Tawfiq. Thank you
قبلوا
very
هذه
much.
الدعوة وتفاعلوا معها
Thank you
وسيكونون معنا على هذه المنصة خلال فترة
for
الساعة والنصف.
our guests
بداية شكرا
who
لهم. الشكر
accepted our
موصول بدرجة
invitation,
ثانية
and they are going to
للحاضرين
interact with it,
جميعا
and they are going to
والذين
be with us during the
يتفاعلون
1
معنا
hour and 30
بصورة
minutes.
مستمرة في هذه
I'd like to thank
اللقاءات مما
also
يعكس
for all those who are
حالة
attendees with us today,
الفاعلية والاهتمام
and they usually interact with
بمستقبل
us
اليمن
in a
والعدالة
constant
الانتقالية على وجه
fashion,
الخصوص.
which reflects
وثالثا الشكر الجزيل
their engagement
لشركائنا رابطة
and
أمهات
attention
المثقفين ومعهد
to the
DT
future of
على وجه
Yemen and the
التحديد
transitional justice in
والذين
Yemen.
وقفوا
I'd like
معنا
also to thank
كداعمين
to our
ومنفذين
partners
طوال
for
هذه
the
المسيرة
Mothers
هذا
Abductees
المشروع
Association
وهذه
and DT
الجهود
Institute
بنهارات
in
وما زلنا
particular.
مستمرين.
They
الشكر
usually
الجزيل
stand
لهم
with us
مرة
as supporters
أخرى سواء
and
ممثلين
implementers during this
بالأخ
process.
ناس حمدون مدير
We are
البرامج
still
لليمن
conducting a
أو
number of
أعضاء
webinars.
فريق دي تي بشكل
Thank you
خاص
very
بشكل
much.
عام. سواء في
They are represented
المركز
by
الرئيسي
Fras
وغيره.
Abd Hamdoun. He is the head
والحقيقة
of the
هذا
programs
المؤتمر
for
الرابع
Yemen
يأتي في
and
هذا
also for
النقاش
the DT
والذي
Institute
خصصناه
team
لأهم الفئات التي رأينا
in the
بأنها لم
headquarters.
تعطى حقها في الفترات
I believe that
السابقة
this is the fourth webinar talking about this point.
حقها في صناعة
We
القرار
focus
أو
today on the
الإثراء السياسي
marginalized
إذا جاز التعبير،
or minorities in
خاصة
Yemen. They
فئة
didn't have
النساء وفئة
a
المهمشة
chance
والشباب وذوي
or
الإعاقة.
opportunity to
واليوم
talk about the decisions or the political decisions,
من هذه الفئات
especially the marginalized and the youth
بتجهودهم
and people with disabilities.
فيما
Today,
يرونه
we will have
دور ضروري
representatives
وأساسي في مسار
from
العدالة
these
الانتقالية وفاعليتهم في
people.
هذا
They are going
المحور.
to talk about what they
نتمنى
believe
أن نستمر
and how they
لاحقا
are
في
going to
ويبينارات
work
قادمة
to play
نحاول
the roles in
بإمكاننا
the
شمال أكثر
transition
فئات المجتمع
justice
المدني
process.
أو المجتمع اليمني
I
الفاعل
believe that
والذي لديهم
we will have in the future other
موقف في
webinars,
الحياة السياسية.
and we'll
مرة
also will
ثانية
have other
شكرا والدي، شكرا
sections
الحاضرين
from the
جميعا،
society,
ونتمنى أن تستمتعوا
and
بهذه
they have
الويبينار والنقاش
and
في
also
هذه
they
الندوة.
are
شكرا.
good players. Thank you very much for you, and I'd like that you are going to enjoy this webinar and the fruitful discussions of the webinar. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Tawfiq, for this word. I'd like also to welcome our panelists from DT Institute and our speakers. I'd like also to present them and give you a brief background about them. Let's talk about the objectives of this forum. We are going to focus the light on the challenges that faces those minorities in the process of transitional justice, and also how to engage women and the youth and people with disabilities in the transitional justice, and also to have recommendations so those sections of the society can be part of the decisions related to transitional justice. Within 50 minutes, we're going to hear to 4 people. They are from our guests. We are going to provide to introduce them later. Then we'll have also 20 minutes of discussion with our attendees, and then we'll have 10 minutes to talk about the recommendations, practical recommendations. I'd like everyone that they close their mics, so please unmute yourselves. Let's start with the first one. The first speaker about the role of the women, youth, and marginalized people with disabilities in the transition justice process. The first speaker is Maha Awad. She is the president of the Wujud Foundation for Human Security, and she is an expert in the gender issues and also about equality between the two sexes. She is also a coordinator for the Women's Summit, and also Meha, thank you for accepting our invitation. And we know that women are really harmed whenever we have a conflict, but usually they are leaders in terms of creating peace. Let's talk about the sufferings of the women and about their drives in the transition justice processes. The mic is yours. Assalamu alaikum. I'd like to welcome all of you because the voice is I have the flu or a virus because of the climate changes in Aden. I'd like to welcome everyone. I'd like to thank you and also Mothers Abductees Association. And also I'd like to thank SAM organizations for rights and liberties for choosing this title for this forum today, because it's very important to relate this issue to the women and their roles, and would like also to talk about it. So my topic is how to build the strengths of the women in the transitional justice, because transitional justice is seen as
من المناسب جدا أن
a practical tool to deal with the legacy of violations, of human rights violations. So it's very important to talk about the women's issues at the heart of the transitional justice, so we can have a comprehensive process. And also we can focus the light on the different types of violations against women, and also the different perspectives of violations, because they are very important issues. We need to talk also about the political history and also the traditional components of the society and how it affects women, and how it affects also our understanding of the facts and the truths. And usually it's subjected to the history and how the women were targeted in the past. So we need to have a magnifying glasses that is going to amplify the harms and sufferings of women, and how she is affected by the consequences and the military or the armed conflict. Also, we need to understand that there was a totalitarian regime against women. There are also other sides and other human rights violations against women, and like whether it's about the war or the rules or the regime, and even to empower women to gain her rights, it's still lacking, and we didn't have equalitarian system so far. But during the war, or whenever we have a system that cannot guarantee the rights of women, we need to see the big number of women that suffered harms, and also about the consequences of human rights violations. And then we have this perspective, and we know the challenges that we face. We need to have a broader understanding and analysis of the gender, to explore what women have been subjected to and the sufferings with the poverty, and also the discrimination and oppression against women, and also how the armed conflict has affected women. So we can understand, and we can have a common understanding of the gender-based violence against women that affected women greatly, whether a woman who is displaced internally or outside, and she's now the bread earner of the family, which means we can be able to understand the different roles of the women, and also the human rights violations against women. And then we can give a complicated picture of the situation. Although there is a kind of research and there are some papers, but the priority of the research to focus on the conditions behind the violations against women and against human beings, and also to focus on the discrimination practices against women, and also about the armed conflict in different approaches, including like exceptional violence. So we can have a transitional justice initiative, and we can focus on the conditions of those marginalized people. So I believe we need to have a conversation about the situations that allow to have violations against women, and also to uncover the facts, and also the institutional reforms, and also to have support from the society, and to empower women, and to redress the harms against her. It's also a challenge. We don't understand that we need to coordinate our work with different active entities and civil society organizations, and also women's organizations, our women's groups. And also we need to have a kind of network to coordinate our efforts, and also to have different initiatives to solve it, which will help us to create transitional justice. It is also a good chance to make women engaged in the transitional justice. We, in the Women's Summit, we had deliberations and consultations about the transition justice file. That was 7 years ago. And we noticed there was a kind of a tension, because it's very important to understand to create or raise awareness among women about the transition justice, and how they can be a part or a component of the process of the transitional justice at first, especially to take or lead initiatives adopted by women. We need to focus on the transitional justice on different approaches, like in the geography framework, far away from the urban areas, where women can exist and live there, and they are far away from urban areas. Let's think that transition justice is a necessity to access these women that live far away, so we can make transitional justice, make a change in the lives of these women. I will talk also about the second part here, about what women do in building peace. Although usually women are the ones who usually carry the burdens, and it affects her greatly. Today, I usually believe and like to use this terminology, the voice that is obvious, and the big role of the women usually is taken by women. Women can lead to peace and create peace, and we can see that at the community level, or at the level of discussions, deliberations, reconciliation, or also to enhance her community contributions, also in the framework of human aid or relief, how women can also participate in building the peace. It really helped to create a different role that focuses on the peace led by women. Usually it's not recognized, or it doesn't have enough recognition. So we need to amplify the role of women. And today maybe the exclusion of women and marginalization of women, discrimination against women in the decision-making places, and also when how women can affect the building of peace. Let's talk about her rights and her interests, but she is far away from making decisions, processes, because of the humanitarian situation or economic situation or economic situations. Because that we have today, what happened is something new. It has never happened or taken place before. It's unprecedented. And how it affects the human rights of women. Unfortunately, it happens or takes place, and we need to take care of it. I'll give you an example. The last thing I'd like to talk about is about how can we be the archive about maybe I was supposed to refer to it in the beginning. How can we build an archive, historical archive, so we can write about the violations against women, about our legacy, how we can redress the grievances or wrongs practiced against women. This, the other thing, as I mentioned, that women have a lot of connections with the society and the community in terms of humanitarian aid, and they can also take lead of initiatives at the community level, or to build peace and to end war. So maybe we have more details, but this is the real effective role of women. The third part I'd like to talk about is how women have a role to play in the transitional justice. Women need to have a role at early stages. We need to recognize the role of the women, and that the woman has equalitarian citizenship, and also we give priority to the voices of women, so we can have peace and transitional justice and the rule of law. And we have real obligations, so people will not have, those perpetrators will not have any immunities. We need also to have different groups of women to participate, so we can have different dimensions of her experiences, because we need to build that trust in women, and also to support the victims, and also in the institutions of the country. We cannot abandon such a thing, because women is very important in the comprehensive peace building. And also we need to talk about the different types of operations, and also we need to know how to get rid of it, and also the gender-based violence. So we need to understand the transitional justice and how we can have equality between the two genders. Or as we say, I'd like also to use an experiment. Sorry, in 2 minutes, please try to, I think I'm about to conclude, but I'd like to use the Tunisian experience, because how they took care of the equality and transitional justice in the Arabic area, and how they included all women in the transitional justice at different levels, and how women also participated and represented or were represented in the technical commissions of the dignity and also truth, how they also supported the victims. And the process was very simple and easy also for women to participate, and it took care of their needs. And it expanded also the participation of women to express and talk about their own sufferings, and also helped to create the transitional justice in the country, which in the past they were also victims of sexual violence against women, and also and the state was supposed, to change its structure so they can help. I'd like to give you some recommendations that we have interactive and active engagement of women to support and advocate and to understand the transition justice in building peace, and also to participate in the truth commissions, and also to listen to the women who were victims of violations, and also to participate in the reparations mechanisms, and also in the compensations for the victims, and also to be part and participate in the reform mechanisms of the country and security forces, military institutions, the judiciary system, and also to take care of the women's experiences in the archive or the memory, and to have wide engagement and participation of women in different reconciliation programs at the level of the country. Thank you very much, and sorry for taking your time. Thank you very much, Ms. Meha, for this very important. She talked about the role of the women and how to participate and what is supposed to be done, so we can have women participate in the second process. We're talking about the youth and their role. I'd like to welcome Mr. Ahmed Shawqi, member of the Yemeni Center for Transition Justice, Director General of TAS Radio, so he can focus on the role of people, the youth, and how they can also participate. Thank you very much, Mr. Ahmed, for accepting the invitation. We know that the youth are the majority of the population, and they need to be also at the decision-making positions. We'd like to hear about the role of youth, how they can build the trust and also participate in transitional justice. I'd like to say that you have only 15 minutes. Thank you very much. Thank you for Mr. Wajdi, Mr. Tawfiq, also Mahan, for everyone here. His voice is very low. I'm sorry, his voice is very low. She said that it's very important to take care of the faraway areas or remote areas, because the war in Yemen usually affects a lot of people. Your voice is not clear. There's a problem maybe with the mic. Okay, his voice is not clear. Really, I have difficulty hearing what he says.
الآن كويس. طيب قلت أولا أوجه الشكر لجميع المتحدثين والمستمعين، وأريد أن أنطلق من حديث الأستاذ.
Now I think it's better.
الاهتمام بالريف.
I'd like to thank to all the speakers and also the attendees. I'd like also to add to what Ms. Meha has said about the taking care of the remote areas because of the war, and also because of the demonstrations and the Yemen revolt in 2011, because at that time there was a kind of marginalization for some sections of the society. Although the remote areas they constitute a big part of the society, they are supposed that the cities should expand at the account of rural areas. But unfortunately, rural areas were still isolated and they didn't have any kind of resources or facilities because of the practices in terms of management of the state. Also, when we talk about the youth, unfortunately, they were marginalized, and after the revolution in 2011, there was no real representation of those youth. But they tried, to use them because they can serve their purposes, or they can also mislead the population. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough chance in 2015, because Houthi came to take power, and they tried to use this kind of resource in the fight, and they also took over of the state. And we found also they used this kind of capacity. They tried to use them in the military camps. They didn't have chance for education or work, and we had economic collapse. And also the social fabric was fragmented. And also they were the fuel of the conflict. They were also the victims of this conflict. Maybe women or the old people and the young people, they were very vulnerable, and also those people with disabilities. But also the youth were marginalized. They were the killer and also the killed. The war also came to destroy the education system, the employment system, and also the infrastructure. And the one who pays the much in this war is the youth. We want to talk about, when I talk about the youth, I'm not talking about a vulnerable section, but I'm talking about, and unfortunately, their understanding, which means that women are the youth are the women, and also they are the marginalized, and also are those with disabilities, and also they are minorities, and also those who live in the rural areas, and also they are marginalized because of religious or racist reasons. 70% of the Yemeni society is the youth. They are the women and the children and the men, and usually they are the minorities from different social backgrounds. So we're not talking about a limited section in the society. They are connected with different sections, like the women and the children, and also the marginalized, and those who are suffered, those who are segregated because of societal discrimination practiced against them. So usually this is the section that should be very powerful in the society. The importance of the participation of the youth in building peace and transitional justice. These are the youth. First of all, they can use their majority or representation. Let's say that their percentage in the society, they are legitimate. This is the legitimate to move or change, and to also do transitional justice, and also to change in the political, economic, and social approaches. They can create also legitimate participation, and also they can create a kind of sustainability for the change. So it means that there is a chance for this process to continue. Also, those are the youth are believed to be the building units, because they are the power, and also they are at the same time are the victims, because they are not fighting because of they don't fight for their projects, they don't fight for their ambitions. They fight for different ideologies that are not related to them. They inherited such ideologies, but the ideas that they are carrying or believing in, they are very obsolete, and they don't respect our society. And it's because of the patriarchal system that we have in Yemen. So those youth, through participation in the transitional justice processes and also reconciliation to build the trust between Yemenis, they can have a different narrative of their reality and the Yemeni reality. So now we are talking about old narratives about the fight between Al-Hussein and Yazid. So it's a religious fight or sectarian fight. So it's from the past. So through their participation, we can have a new narrative of equalitarian citizenship, and also to establish the republican system in which that rights and duties will be shared by all citizens. We can also think about the future and try to build the economy and the culture. So the youth also should be addressed not as a power, but also they are stakeholders, because all the changes that we'd like, to make, and the things that we need to build in terms of transition justice or building the trust, or also reconciliation between the people, these processes target to have a better future, a bright future for those youth, and they can deal with it. And also we can try to motivate them. It's very important to take care of such an issue in this process. One of the issues that we'd like to talk about, those youth or the youth, they are working in very difficult conditions. And we talk about the rural areas, usually different organizations and various organizations try, to avoid dealing with them. So when we talk our brothers who are activists and human rights activists and working with different organizations, and we believe that through such dialogue we can build a real process for the transitional justice, and the narratives will be effective if we work with these people living in these rural areas, and they can participate from the tribal areas and from remote areas in this process. So we can build a very important or real environment for us. In 2011, we talked about the different approaches to change the Yemeni state and also society, but we now are surrounded by different. I'm sorry. I'll give you 3 minutes. If you can give us the recommendations. Okay, I'll come to the recommendations. So we talk about this importance, and we'll try to be brief. There are a lot of challenges. The first one is the exclusion, political exclusion, and also institutional exclusion of the youth. They try, to avoid giving the youth a chance to work with them, and also the absence of the economic empowerment for the youth, that's why those youth are now engaged in fighting. Third, we have challenges. We don't have. Maybe we have legal items or clauses that can be used to curb the motivation among the youth. And also we have cultural and societal impediments against the youth. And when we talk about the mechanisms or the means that we can have the youth participate in the transition justice and reconciliation, the first one, there should be representation. There should be fair representation of the youth in the transitional justice commissions and truth commissions, because they have also their own skills, and they can participate in the building the archive and the memory
تكون اجتماعية
Also,
أدت إلى حصول مثل هذه
they
الالتباسات.
can also deal with the root causes. Maybe they are of cultural source. They can be also of societal sources. Like, for example, when we talk about the sectarian narrative, Mr. Ahmed, you have only 1 minute.
غير ذلك
I'll give you 1 minute.
طيب غير ذلك هناك أيضا إمكانية لإشراك الشباب في يعني
So you reminded me. Also, there is a to make the youth participate. Sorry, he's looking. The youth can be given the chance to participate in building alliances and networking among the youth, so they can build the trust and also local reconciliation. Youth are divided among the same localities, unfortunately. Maybe it may continue for a number of years after the war ended. So they can give them, they can build the trust first of all. Also, we need to have mechanisms or institutions. We need institutional reforms among the state and also among the partisan institutions. Because the structure we have nowadays are against the participation of the youth. So it doesn't give the youth a chance to participate and to be part. Maybe we can be brief, since the power and the strength is with the youth, but they don't have the resources and the capacities and the abilities to play leading roles in building the transitional justice. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Ahmed. You give us a good picture about the power of the youth in terms of building the transition justice. Now we'll talk about the marginalized people and how we can help them. I'd like to welcome Naaman Qaad al-Hudayfi, head of the Union of the Marginalized and the National Council for Minorities in Yemen. And also, he is also participation in another council, also to work with the outputs of the National Conference Dialogue. Thank you very much for accepting the marginalized people have been the victims for a long period and they've been marginalized for a long time. So how the transition justice processes can end such a heavy legacy, and how can they be part of the transitional justice system in Yemen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Is my voice clear? Thank you. Thank you for our brothers in SAM organization. Also thank for our panelists and also our participants in this forum, which is very important. You have only 10 minutes. You need to pay attention to this. You have only 10 minutes. You can give everyone 15 minutes. I'll try to be as brief as possible. As I said, after I welcomed you, I'll try to be brief. I'll talk about the paper that I have prepared. I'm going to read it. The objective of this paper is to make the participant understand the importance of the transition justice and also to focus on the reality of the marginalized people and the minorities. His voice is breaking up. I'm sorry. His voice is breaking up. His voice is breaking up. Also, he's talking about the social divisions and the collapse of the institutions. There is a breaking up in the voice. He has a technical problem. He has a technical problem. His voice is not clear. His voice is not clear. Your voice is not clear. We couldn't hear it well.
الصوت غير واضح. أقول فيه تقطع بالصوت.
I'm sorry, his voice is
أيوة
not
أيوة
clear.
تسمعنا
طيب
أصوات
دقيقة
Should I repeat what I said?
أيوة أنا
Your
أسمعك
voice is
بس
not.
لحظة
Can you hear us?
حاول
Okay, just a second.
الآن تسمع
Can you hear me now?
لا أستاذ نعمان الصوت متقطع أعتقد مشكلة في
تسمعوننا؟
الإنترنت أو
Can you hear me now? Mr. Norman,
أنا عندي
your voice is.
الحين أسمعك
You have a
تسمعونا؟
technical problem. I think you have a problem with the
أيوة
internet.
تفضل.
Can you hear me?
طيب الآن تسمعونا بشكل جيد صح؟
Okay, you can continue.
أيوة تفضل تفضل.
كما قلت
Okay.
اليمن يعاني من نزاع مسلح
Can you hear me
عام
clearer
2015
now?
بدأ هذا
Right?
هذا النزاع
Now you can continue.
تفاقم الانقسامات الاجتماعية
As I mentioned, Yemen has experienced continuous war since 2015. Now we have more fragmentation in the society and also in the institutions. I'm sorry, the voice is breaking up again. Also about the human rights and the trials and also reparations and institutions reforms. And when we talk about the marginalized people, I'm talking about the usually say those marginalized people from Al-Akhdam and also displaced people. Usually they are exposed to social discrimination and they are not part in the development. As I said before, are the women, the youth, usually they are victims to more social discrimination. In Yemen, we have different types of specific minorities like marginalized and other minorities like Baha'in, like also Christians and Baha'iyya section. Also, we have other minorities because of their linguistic background. All of these minorities usually are neglected and they try, to not talk about them. We need also to redress their grievances and also like forced disappearance and also to have a kind of reparations and persecutions. We need to redress such grievances and violations. We need also to focus have a comprehensive review since the reunification started. Of course, the challenges that we face in Yemen as marginalized, many challenges like the political and social fragmentations that also added to more discrimination against marginalized people or of them and other minorities. Also, the weak judicial system. The judicial system in Yemen, as you know, it's corrupted and also politically polarized and faces a lot of problems. Sorry, the voice is not clear. The voice is not clear.
الصوت اتقطع يمكن النت واصل.
And also the documentation of violations against marginalized people. Your voice is not clear. I think the internet is okay. You can continue. We'll try. I think now it's okay. As I said, if you try in 3 minutes, if you can in 3 minutes, give us the summary. I was talking about the gist of the paper.
في حقيقة المهمشين
let me
في اليمن هذه الفئات الكبيرة
let me
والكثيرة
talk
التي
far away
تتجاوز
from
5 مليون
the
مواطن
paper that I
أو أكثر.
prepared for you.
هذه فئات
Let's talk about the recommendations. The marginalized in Yemen are over 5 million people in Yemen. This section have a combined discrimination. It's a discrimination from the society, discrimination from the organizations, and discrimination from the institutions. They are deprived of many of participation. Also, they were deprived from also being from participation in the transitional justice. The human rights institutions, they have to have a clear understanding of the reality of those people, and they are also the most discriminated against group. And also to help this section of the society in different areas, and also to be invited to such activities and events such as this one in the present and also in the future. Unfortunately, the political system in Yemen doesn't have a clear vision about to enhance the rights of the marginalized people. It's because of the social structure in Yemen. I'm sorry, the voice is not clear. This is what I believe, that we need to have an awareness campaign in rural areas, and also to focus on the rights of the victims, and also to document all the violations practiced against the marginalized, and also to enable the marginalized people to participate in the transitional justice, and also to have representatives in the different commissions. And also we need also to have an independent judicial system. I'm sorry, the voice is not clear. These are my recommendations that I have tried to provide you with. Thank you very much.
التي أبرزت أبعاد حقوقية مهمة.
Thank you very much.
لهذه الفئة المهمشة.
Thank you very much, Mr. Norman, for your you have focused on the different dimensions of human rights of those the marginalized people for a long time. The last part we are going to talk about also how for those people with disabilities. I'd like to invite Rumaisa Yaqub. She is a human rights community activist, and also she has a legal experience, and now she is trying to prepare a PhD in law, and also she works in the peace building and also enabling women and advocating the rights of persons with disabilities, and also she helped in terms of the negotiating to release some prisoners, and she was awarded with different trophies. Also the Prime Minister gave her also certificate. Now she is she's the head of the national network of advocacy for those people with disabilities and also victims. Now today she's going to talk about the transitional justice. Thank you very much, Mr. Rumaisa. You have also 10 minutes. In the beginning, I'd like to thank TUSAM organization for this invitation, and also to give me the chance to talk about different topics. Usually in the past we were not talked about in terms of the transitional justice. I'd like also to the word transitional, the word people with disabilities. It means women, pregnant women, people with diabetes, people with heart problems. But the word when we talk about people with disabilities, which means that okay, there is a problem or a disability in the body. It's which means that people with disabilities, when we talk about estimate of people with disabilities in Yemen, there are 15% of the people, which means that for people in Yemen, according to the reports in 2023, but other reports, they say in 2024, maybe there are 5 million people with disabilities, which means, okay, since 2015 until 2025, we have 3 times increase in terms of the disabilities. Those people are part of the society. We cannot think about future peace without the participation of such people. We talk about the current situation and how they can participate in the decision making. Yemen ratified in 2008 about the rights of the people with disabilities, and also Article 5 in 1999. Unfortunately, people with disability do not participate in the partisan institutions or the organizations, and they cannot access rights because of the weak infrastructure, also the social stigma they carry. Usually they have a pity on them. Also in the Yemeni constitution, in 44 article, they protect the rights of the people with disabilities, and they should be also integrated with the social system. Even the 3rd article in Law 5, it protects the rights of the people with disabilities to participate in the public institutions and also political institutions. So why is it important to have them participate? Those people with disabilities, they don't deserve it because it's part of their rights, and also to create a kind of sustainable continuation for the peace, and also protect them from the war. So they need to have also transitional justice and also reparation, and also they also can participate in the political process, and they can create sustainable peace. They also, once they can be part of the workforce, they will be part of the restructure or reconstruction of Yemen. We talk about over 500,000 people, and they can be part of the workforce. When we talk about rights, there are different ratifications of international laws or pacts, also in Geneva protocols, how to protect the rights of those people who are injured in the war, also how to protect also the family, and also to create suitable environment conditions for them. And also the UN resolution of 2475, also to talk about the dangers that may endanger the lives of the people with disabilities, and how we can integrate them as part of the transitional justice, and also how they can also have humanitarian services. Also the Yemeni law give us the maybe we have 5% in the public institutions, so they can participate. So it's part of the law, and it's part of the transitional justice, and part of the Yemeni law. Those people can also work in different commissions and also committees in the transitional justice system. What are the challenges they face? Although they have all these laws and pacts, those people with disabilities have different challenges. The first one, it's the environmental and infrastructure. It's very difficult for them, and they don't have any kind of facilitations to go to the buildings, and also how to use the roads. This is part of the challenges against integration. They don't have they don't have traffic signs that are suitable for them. These are challenges for them, and they cannot access to the buildings they are going to participate in. Also in 2 minutes, if you can finish in 2 minutes.
في صناعة القرار. طبعا
Also the social stigma against them, and so we cannot make them part in the decision-making position. They can play different roles. If they participate, they can be also witnesses of human rights violations, especially about the injured and people with disabilities. Also, they can be part of those people working on the transition justice in terms of reparations, and also to enhance the concept of reconciliation. They can also benefit. Of course, the recommendations is to have different strategies to involve them in these commissions and committees, and also to be part of the reparation mechanisms, and also to rehab them, and also to remove all the impediments, whether they are in terms of providing services or climate.
لن يكتمل إلا إذا استمر في إغلاق جميع وجود الأشخاص. نحن نتحدث اليوم عن أكثر من 5 مليون مواطن.
The transitional justice process in Yemen, it will not continue. We need to. We talk about over 5 million people who have ambitions and desires to participate. It's their right to build Yemen, which is fair and just for all of them. We believe that this future will not be marked with any marginalization, and transition justice will be for the youth and the women and people with disabilities, and with all of them. And thank you. Thank you, Mr. Maisa. You highlighted more important about the challenges against those people with disabilities. Now we will open the discussions, and you have 20 minutes for the Q&A. Would like all of you to ask your questions. You'll have very limited time. I'd like the questions to be very. We'll try to take 3 questions, and we'll give the panelists a chance to answer.
نبيل عبسي، تفضل واختصر لو سمحت.
Nabil Al-Absi, start please, and try to be brief.
إذن
Mr. Nabil.
إذن تقية نعمان، تفضلي.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. شكرا جزيلا للمتحدثين.
تقية نعمان, you can start.
أنا سأتكلم.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Thank you very much for the panelists. Frankly, I will talk about
البنية التحتية لا تخدمهم.
what Ms. Rumaisa talked about. People with disabilities.
أصحاب الإعاقة البنية التحتية لا تخدمهم.
In less than 1 minute, please try to be brief.
أن تعملها.
People with disabilities are not helped with our infrastructure.
الإنسانية للمعوقين. يعني مثلا
what can be done by human rights organizations to facilitate their life and elevate the conditions for those people with disabilities. They cannot use the toilet because the toilet, they are not suitable for them. The roads are not suitable for them. Many of the infrastructure don't support them. How can we help them? And thank you very much. Thank you for this. When she talked about the infrastructure for people with disabilities.
من يريد المشاركة تفضل حتى نلحق الوقت، أو بنا أدخل في.
Who wants to speak?
مساء الخير عليكم جميعا. معكم الأستاذة أندى الصلاحي، رئيسة مؤسسة إنسان محافظة
All will start interactive dialogue.
حياك الله.
أندى الصلاحي, the head of إنسان Foundation in Abian.
موضوع
شائق وشائك. I heard the speakers about the transitional justice.
في
It's a
كل
very
قطاعاتها.
important question and
لكن
very intricate also at the
نصطدم
same
دائما
time.
بالسياسات ونصطدم بالقوانين غير
We
مباشرة.
need to establish this
اللي نبحث
principle
فيه
in
الآن
all
ممكن
the
ما
parts
هي
or
الآلية الممكنة
aspects of
كمجتمع
our life.
إنه
Usually we have
نبدأ
laws,
بالخطوة
they are not
الأساسية في
activated.
عملية العدالة
What we are
ولو
looking for,
خطوة العدالة
what
الاجتماعية
is the
المحلية
mechanism
في
as a
إطار المديرية
society
أو في إطار المحافظة.
to take the first step
العمل
in
التنظيمي
for the
المجتمعي
transition justice.
الذي يسهم
Even
في
if we
تعزيز
start with the
موضوع إنه
local
العدالة
social
الاجتماعية في كل
justice,
فئات
even within the
هذه
same district
المديرية أو
or
هذه
governorate,
المنطقة في كل القطاعات
what also we
يكون
can
تهميش أو
do as a
إقصاء. هذا
society
هو
to
اللمة
enhance the
الأساسية
transitional justice
الحقيقية التي ممكن
for
أن
all
تغير
the
بعدها
different
السياسات
sections of the
والقوانين
society
وتفعل فيها
without
تبدأ
any
العدالة
marginalization.
الانتقالية أيا
This is
كان
the building
منظورها.
unit
لكن
that we
إحنا
can
بنتطرق فقط
start,
إلى
and after that laws can
العموميات
be
في
changed
مفهوم
and can
العدالة
be activated
الانتقالية ولا
regardless of the
نحرك
transition
على أرض
justice.
الميدان
But if we talk about
مفاهيم
general
ومفاهيم
issues
العدالة الاجتماعية
or
المتعايشة
generalities
داخل المجتمع
and
نفسه
we don't have any
لن نقدم أي
active
خطوة. لهذا أنا
participation in the
كمقترح
field
مني
and talk about the
كمنظم
different keys
اجتماعي
of the
أن
transition justice in
يبدأ
the society,
بالعدالة
we are
الاجتماعية
not going to
المحلية
make
في إطار
any
المحلي الوطني
steps.
لكل
So
محافظة ولكل مديرية
as
في
an
كل القطاعات وأن
organizer,
تشارك
let's
فيها
start with
جميع
the
الفئات.
local
لا يستثني
societal
أحد
transitional
حتى
justice in
لا نصل
every
إلى
governorate and
تغطية في أي
every
عملية
district and all the
حقيقية
different
لتنمية
sections
سواء
and
كان قطاع
sectors,
التعليم
so
أو أي
all
قطاعات أخرى.
can participate,
إذا
and we
لن
should not
نحلها
exclude
كمجتمع
anyone. So
لن
we are not going
نجد
to
أي
have
حل
any
من
challenges in
السياسات
the
أو من
future
صناع
with
القرار. تحياتي.
whether in the education system or other systems. If we are not solve it as a society, we are not going to find any. Thank you very much.
شكرا لك يا أستاذة ندى. طبعا أي واحد يعمل مداخلة يوجه سؤال يرفع يده.
Thank you very much, Ms. Nada. Anyone
اللي هو كيف
who wants to
ستلعب
ask a
آلية
question,
العدالة
please raise your
الانتقالية
hand.
دورا إيجابيا في تعزيز دور الفئات
We have a
المهمشة
question
والضعيفة في السياق المحلي
on the
للمنطقة.
chat. How
السؤال
transitional justice
ممكن الأستاذ
mechanisms
لقمان
play
قائد
a
الجواب على هذا
positive
السؤال. كيف
role
ستلعب
in
آلية
enhancing the
العدالة
role
الانتقالية
of
دورا
the
إيجابيا
marginalized people
في تعزيز
in
دور
the
الفئات
Yemeni
المهمشة
society?
في السياق
Maybe
المحلي.
Mr. Nauman Qaid can answer this. How can the
شكرا على
transitional
السؤال.
justice
أنا
mechanism play a positive role in
يعني
enhancing the role of
آليات
the
العدالة
marginalized
الانتقالية
people
بإمكانها
in
أن
the
تكون
Yemeni
آلية
context?
منصفة لهذه الفئات، لكن
Thank you for
شريفة
the
حيث توفر
question.
إرادة سياسية أيضا لدى
The mechanism of
أي نظام
transition
سياسي كان
justice,
أو لدى
they
القوى
can be
السياسية العامة
fair.
لمحل الصراع السياسي الآن في
There
اليمن.
should be
لا
also a
يمكن في
political
حال من
will.
الأحوال أن يتحسن وضع الفئات المهمشة والمهمشين في أي شكل من الأشكال.
Political will
يعني
among the
في حال
politicians.
وجود العدالة الانتقالية
We cannot enhance or improve
الاعتراف
our
الضمني والاعتراف
conditions
ضمنيا بمظلومية هذه
after
الفئات
war
كنوع من ما يسمى
unless
بجبر الضرر. هناك ظلم تاريخي، وهذا الظلم
there should
التاريخي
be
لا
a
يكون
recognition
أيضا
of
يبقى
the
مستمر في ظل هذا
oppression
الظلم
practiced against
قائم. لازم
those
يكون هناك
people,
اعتراف
and also there
ضمني
should be
بمظلومية هذه الفئات،
oppression for
وهذه
those
واحدة
people. We have also
من
a
شروط
strict
واجبات العدالة الانتقالية. لكن أيضا
oppression against those people. We need to admit it and to have a recognition.
لغاية مؤتمر الحوار الوطني
It's
كان هناك
one
نوع من
of
نوع من
the
الاعتداء
necessities of transitional
والاعتذار
justice.
التاريخي لكل ضحايا الصراع السياسي ولكل ضحايا التمييز في اليمن.
It also was part of the how to recognize the victims of the political conflicts in Yemen. Thank you.
ننتظر التفاعل. هذه موضوع العدالة الانتقالية.
Thank you, Mr. Nauman, for the clarification. We are waiting. This very important issue, the transition justice, is very important. It's a very intricate subject, but talking about the transition justice in these forums, and also to remind the political parties, very important at this stage.
أتمنى لكل من يريد المشاركة إنه يرفع يده.
I wish that anyone who would like to participate to raise his hand.
تفضل يا أستاذ أحمد شوقي.
طيب أنا يعني أريد أن أشير إلى بعض النقاط التي
Mr. Ahmed, you can start.
الزملاء مسارة العدالة الانتقالية هو موضوع العدالة الانتقالية موضوع صعب ومركب.
I would like to refer to some points mentioned by our panelists. The transition justice processes is very difficult and intricate, and each society has its own transitional justice and it has a different way. I believe that in Yemen, especially when we took from our sister from Abiyan and those people talked about marginalized people. The first one, we need to interact with the mechanisms, with the traditions and also societal mechanisms. We have our own values for different people. We can start from it to establish transitional justice. So we can do it gradually because the size of or the amount of wrongs or grievances committed in Yemen are really big. But through gradual dealing with them, we can come to a kind of fairness. Then we can start with a group and then we finish, then we go to another group. The culture of transition justice is absent in the Yemeni society. As people and as organizations and entities, we don't work on the awareness among the people. Maybe this issue that the perpetrators will not be immune from the accountability. Even those people who are part of the armed conflicts, they can be part with the other people and they can create also national reconciliation, and also they can have a fairness to all the people and just. And also we need to go to rural areas and remote areas and spread this idea or concept there. Because these are isolated from the world and the new concepts. And those people who are isolated and marginalized, maybe they will be honest and they will be part of the transition justice. When we talk about collective reparations, there are some areas that suffered from the war and they were marginalized. Like, for example, they don't have education, they don't have infrastructure, and so those areas, they should be given priority in terms of development more than the other areas that didn't face any kind of war. So this is a kind of collective reparations. In Ta'az, for example, because it was besieged for a long time, it destroyed a lot of things in the city, in the education system and the services system and the other systems or the other facilities that people need to live. So this collective punishment, then we need to have a collective also reparation for this area. Other areas also were subject to the same punishment. We need to give priority to these areas because it's part of the collective reparations. If we don't do that, then we'll have also a kind of disparity between the areas, and also those people who committed atrocities will feel safe. Thank you, Mr. Ahmed. Do you think do you believe that there is a transitional justice? Taqi Nu'man says, do you believe that there will be a transitional justice, or we move from one phase to another and we give immunity to perpetrators? This I was about to talk about this one, but because of the time restrictions, I couldn't talk about it. The cultural, the societal culture that we have very few civil societies. We have traditions, which means that the tribal traditions usually it's a kind of reconciliation. So we need people with the dignity of the mashayikh. Oh, we came to you with, so usually they close a lot of big files and they pay blood money, so without pointing to the perpetrator. And also we have this kind of vengeance, the collective vengeance from the against those people who committed the crime or their relatives. So it's very important to talk to those people in these areas and spread the idea of transitional justice. So once we have political solution or reconciliation, then we'll have a kind of incubation among those people. All the resources for all the resources that we have for transitional justice should be paid toward the awareness or raising the awareness of transitional justice. So we don't need to have another conflict, but through. So we need also to have truth commissions to make also laws and also to have specific punishments. It's very clear. Now we have another question. It says, what are the other structures or local structures that we can reform so it will enable the youth to participate? It's a question given by Mod. The first, when we talk about the structures, we are talking about the civil communities in Yemen. Maybe 7 districts in Taiz, maybe 2 or 3 in Aden. But they don't include other governors, like for example Taiz. We cannot say Taiz governorate, just only 7 districts that have civil structures. So when we talk about the organization, the civil society organization, unfortunately, many civil society organizations were corrupted. To how we can also reform the partisan structures in the civil areas, and also how to make the youth involved in these structures. Unfortunately, the leaders of the political parties are old people, and they don't allow the young people to participate. It's also to enable the youth to work in politics and also in the economic fields. For youth cannot make a change in his society unless that he has money and education and also a leading position. Thank you, Mr. Rahman. Ms. Maha?
أنا أعتقد أولاً
the mic is yours. Talking about the transitional justice, I believe as civil society organizations, we need to enhance the culture of transitional justice and how it can make a message. We convey it and how we use the initiatives that implement or build the awareness among the people, and also and how to redress the victims and how to link transitional justice with the sustainable peace and comprehensive peace. So transitional justice, so it needs scores of strategies like criminal justice, also reparations, also social justice and economic justice, and how to link the peace with development. And this is what we need to focus on. We do need to. The interventions of civil societies should not be big leaps. We should have a long-term vision. it's not the magic wand. It's not going to realize dreams. We need to understand that the legacies that we have from the past and the oppressions and grievances committed against people. I believe if we think about the gender in 1 minute, because the time is over for this, it's very important. We need to have how to build. We need to think about transition justice. When we think about how it's going to change our lives, it's a driving force. So it should be with comprehensive strategy. Thank you very much, Ms. Meha, for this comment. How to build the awareness of transition justice processes. Now, the last part of our forum, through what we have heard today, we can talk about what the recommendations. The first one is the women and transition justice. How can we come with recommendations? Mahat talked about that women are not participated. They need to be participation, and also the violence, gender violences should be part in the repression mechanisms. Is it possible? Or do we need other recommendations?
ب10 دقائق نناقش هذا نخرج بالتوصيات.
Even the panelists can talk about the recommendations, so we can have recommendations.
إذا احنا دورنا العديد من التوصيات في هذه المداخلات، مثلا في محور الشباب. إنشاء منصات شبابية داخل عملية العدالة الانتقالية لضمان
we have written down a number of recommendations. Like, for example, when we talked about the youth, to have youth platforms in the transition justice so we can hear the voices of the youth. Also, to support the initiatives driven by the youth, and also to document the national memory that is going to document the violations against human rights violations. Also, to have the youth participate in the raising of awareness among the societies. Mr. Wajdi, can I add? Yes. Also, the economic empowerment projects and political empowerment projects for the youth because of the unemployment and also the economic collapse situation. That's why those people are engaged in the fight. Maybe if we have economic empowerment, they will leave the war. And also the political empowerment, so they can be part in the political parties, and also to be in the structure of the country or the state. I believe this is very important. Yes, correct. The second one, also to give a chance to accommodate the youth and empower them in terms especially in rural areas. Let's focus on the rural areas because we are fighting, we are focusing on the civil societies, but what about rural areas? Because they don't have education and they don't have this culture. And also the leaders, community leaders there usually bring about past differences to give them. It's very important. These are very important recommendations. Talking about the marginalized, the things that we have highlighted is we need to recognize the violations practiced against the marginalized, and also to have reparation mechanisms that can address the historical violations against those people. And also they could be part of the state structure, and also to adopt national policies to fight or curb racist and enhance also equality between the people. Do you have anything to add? So let's move to the fourth one and the last one, talking about those people with disabilities and how they can be participating. We need to reach all of them, and they can be part in the process of transitional justice, and also to have representatives from those people in the truth commissions and also reconciliations. Also to pay attention to the needs of those people who are injured in the war. Also to have human rights and humanitarian criteria in the national legislations, so we will not have any kind of discrimination, and also will have full accountability. Can also, in some points, I believe 5% of the people, we need to, when we talk about the 5% of the people working in the state structures, whenever we activate the laws, it's very easy then for us to do it. So maybe the one who decides the disability, people with disability organizations, so we need those people with disabilities to participate by themselves in the activation of the transition justice and equality. And also we have a problem in documenting of violations practice against those people. So we need to have the data complete, intact also in the future. Thank you very much. This is a very important. So those people with disability should be part in the truth commissions and reconciliation commissions, and also reparations mechanisms. So we have come to the end of our forum. Thank you very much to our panelists, Mr. Mahawar and Ahmed Shawqi and Nu'man Qaid and Rumaysa Yaqub, and also to our attendees and to the organizing entities from Mothers Objectives Associations, and also some organization for rights and liberties and DT Institute, and also for you, for your interaction and feeding. Thank you very much.
نلقاكم في فعاليات قادمة بإذن الله، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
We'll see you in the future, inshallah.